Hey guys, so it's Bonnie here, and I think it's only my second video, but I want to start getting more videos out there. And today I wanted to talk to you some more about mental health. And like I said in my previous video, I am a teacher, so that's why you see all of the fun background for my class. um, but I took down some of the education because it's not part of the school at all. This is just my own thoughts, my own opinions about mental health. Um, so, some of you know I'm pretty open that I have pretty much always struggled with anxiety, um, and the last few years, some depression as well. Um, I technically have a diagnosis of general anxiety disorder from years ago, but I think mine is a little bit different. I think mine is more panic disorder. Um, I have more of a tendency to panic, but I do have a lot of anxiety as well. So, um, yeah, I don't really know where to go from here. I used to have really bad anxiety when I was a teenager, really bad, and it was probably the worst that it's ever been. I would say my junior and senior year of high school, and at the time, I didn't really want to believe that it was anxiety because, as most of you know, mental health has definitely has a stigma attached to it, and especially if you're a Christian, um, people might think and people might say to you that it's just because you don't have enough faith in God and you're not praying hard enough and uh, whatever they can think of, they'll tell you. And I was told that, and I heard that a lot growing up as a teenager, and so I really struggled because I was praying all the time. I was trying to read my Bible every day. I was doing ministry, and I was doing everything I could think of to be a good Christian. Where um, I know it's not about like works or anything, and I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I tried my best, and God knows my heart, and I knew that God knew my heart back then. So I was very confused as to why I was still struggling with this. I was like, well, if I'm a bad Christian, like, how do I become a good Christian? Like, I'm doing everything I can think of. I'm trying my best, and I was asking God for His strength because I know that it's not me. It wasn't necessarily like a pride issue because I was always praying like, God, I need you. Like, I know I can't do this on my own. I can't do this by myself. Um, Please, like, do miracles, provide miracles through me, help me to have victory over this. And it just wasn't really happening. And I'm not going to say I struggled with anxiety like 100% of the time, but it was a lot. And as I became older, and like I said, junior, senior year, it was very much out of control. And I feel like as I tried to control it more, the worse it got. The more that I tried to ignore it and pretend that it wasn't happening and um, not deal with it, it it was becoming it was becoming like a tsunami in my life, like just piling and piling and piling and piling, and I was at a loss. And I still don't completely understand the differences between panic attacks, anxiety attacks. I know there's a lot of you that I know that do know the difference, so please don't judge me. I don't remember off the top of my head what the difference is. I just know it was one of those, either panic attack or anxiety. Now, anxiety, I kind of had all the time. It's just kind of something that's just always been in me since I was a young child. Since I was 5 years old, I can remember very vividly having anxiety. So that's kind of something I've always had. Whereas a panic attack, I think the difference is the panic attack is when you're actually having an attack sort of like in the moment, like boom, here's panic, or here's panic attack, like boom, it's here. Again, I could be mixing it up, but you get the idea. General anxiety, panic, both of them together. And whichever one it was, I would have attacks a lot. And towards junior and senior year, I would say I probably had attacks maybe, if not every day, then every other day. Probably every day, though, in some way, shape, or form. And the absolute worst thing for me is that it would happen most of the time out of the blue. So that really bothered me because I was trying to ignore it, and I was trying to think, well, I'm a good Christian. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, so it's not me. When I would feel stressed out, or I would feel anxious, or I would have anxious thoughts, I would try my best to pray about it and move on. Pray about it and move on. So I was like, it's not me. Like, it's not anxiety. If it's anxiety, that means I'm a bad Christian. So it's not anxiety. So, whatever. But no, these attacks would happen most of the time when I was asleep or very randomly, like going in between my classes. I would have them. But it was frustrating because it would happen seemingly in my mind for no reason at all. Like, it would almost never happen when I was anxious, if that makes sense. Like, if I was nervous about something, I never had a panic attack right then. If I did, I think it would be a lot easier for me to accept that it was anxiety and a panic attack, anxiety attack, whatever, because it would be like A, B, nervous, attack, nervous, attack. That would make sense. But this would happen to me at night or in the middle of my sleep. I would wake up having it. And I was like, okay, I think I'm dying because my attacks were so severe, guys. I'm talking like my left arm would go completely numb sometimes. Most of the time it would start as the worst kind of pain ever, like in my back, in between my shoulder blades, and then it would kind of like sneak up to the front of my chest, or sometimes in my arm and then my chest. Really painful. Felt like I couldn't breathe. And when I say that, I'm talking about like I felt like I couldn't take any breath in because the pain was so severe right here in my chest that like even just the physical action of taking a breath in through my nose felt impossible. And then you're short of breath because you can't take a deep breath, and it just escalates. And then on top of it, if you're thinking this can't be anxiety, then that only makes the fear worse. It only perpetuates the fear because then it's like, well, what is it? Like, this pain is the worst pain of my life. Something is seriously wrong with me. And I used to be terrified of doctors, so I didn't go very often. But if I could have, I would have, because I literally thought I was dying sometimes. I thought I was having a heart attack, because if you Google heart attack symptoms in women, a lot of times they're almost the same. Not exactly the same, but there are a lot of symptoms that are very similar. So I'm like, am I like this young teenager that's going to die of a heart attack? Because these were bad attacks. And not only would I have them a lot, but I would have them and they would last for a long time. They wouldn't be like 5-minute, 10-minute stints. Sometimes they'd be about an hour, hour and a half. Sometimes the effects of it would linger for hours. Not necessarily like the same extent of pain, but just different aspects of it would last. And that is exhausting. That is so exhausting. And then on top of that, when you have anxiety, you have racing thoughts. So not knowing what it was, racing thoughts, dealing with the physical pain, it was a nightmare. And then to have it several times during the week, it was bad. It was very bad. And anyways, at the time, I had someone that I trusted that finally took me to a doctor, and the doctor prescribed me, or not prescribed, diagnosed me with general anxiety disorder, and I was like, no, it can't be anxiety. But I had tests done, I had an ultrasound of my heart even. I had an EKG. I had 2 or 3 EKGs. I had to wear a heart, what is it called? I think it's called a Holter monitor. I don't know. It's some kind of monitor that you wear that measures your heart rate. And I was also diagnosed, because of those tests, I was also diagnosed with a disorder called POTS, and it's postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Basically means you have a really fast heart rate. And so I was also put on beta blockers, long story. But yeah, he said it was anxiety, and I asked him, like, then why don't I feel this way all the time? Or why don't I feel this way when I'm anxious, when I'm scared, when I'm nervous? Why does it happen at night? Or why does it happen whenever it happens? And he said, I don't remember exactly how he said it, but basically he made it seem like the anxiety in your body is kind of like there, always there. So when you're like relaxed, that stress, that anxiety, those feelings that are through your body have to come out. Like they have to release in some way or other. So they have to release. So it doesn't mean that it has to release in the moment. It could release at any time because it's in your body. It needs to get out. That actually made a lot of sense to me. Still didn't understand what that meant for me as a Christian, but I was like, all right, whatever. I finally accepted it for what it is. This is anxiety. The doctor said it. I had tests done, which I was afraid to do. I finally had it done. It's not my heart. I'm not dying. And guys, honestly, that was like a turning point for me. That really helped me to realize how powerful our mind is in just knowing and having a diagnosis, because after that, I was like, all right, I think I went on medication for a little while, but I've never been a person that loves medication. I'm not the kind of person that just is like, give me pills, give me pills, give me pills. I don't like that. I prefer to do things more natural, and I don't always do it. I'm not perfect, but if I can help it, I try to do it more natural, and especially because this was mental health and I was afraid of it and I didn't know much about it, I really did not want to go down the road of being on all kinds of prescriptions, especially with the stigma still in my head. So, I think I Googled ways to help when you're having anxiety attacks, ways what to do when you're having these problems. And for me, some things that really helped were a lot of deep breathing. I did a lot of deep breathing, and as well as I would try to, when I felt it coming on, I would try to just mentally separate myself. Like whatever I was thinking about, whatever I was doing, I would try to just stop, and I would try my best to just not think about anything, if that makes sense. To kind of go to a place where you're just at peace, which felt impossible, but doing your best to silence all the thoughts, all the voices, whatever's going on in your head, to forget about them in the moment and just do a lot of deep breathing, focus on your breath, focus on the here and the now. And as I would feel the anxiety come and the attack start to come and the pain building and all of that, this really helped me. I was like, okay, I could diagnose it. Okay, this is panic or this is anxiety or whatever. I'm okay. I'm not dying. This is what it is. It's going to pass. And no matter how strong the feelings were, especially the panic that would start coming, Especially if I was sleeping, I would try to sit up and just do this, do ton, a ton of deep breathing. Because, like I said, my attacks were really long and really severe. So, as long as the attack was, that's how long I'd be do deep breathing. That's how long I would try to match it. And that was hard. Um, but knowing that's what it was, accepting that's what it was, even though I didn't understand why I had to deal with it, and then doing the deep breathing and trying to mentally take a step back really, really, really helped me a lot. And I'm going to stop this video here, and I'm going to come back in a few minutes for a part 2. So I will see you in just a minute.